Welcome back. The 2024 winter initiation season is fast approaching. As we know, inclement weather in the Eastern Cape has brought to the fore concerns over the ability of schools, initiation schools, to operate and to keep initiates safe. Let's discuss this further. We're joined by the Congress of Traditional Leaders. Its Secretary General Zolani Mkiva joins us this afternoon. Zolani, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much for coming onto the program. The winter initiation season. Thank you, Zolani. We've been seeing a lot of serious floods and weather-related casualties in the Eastern Cape already, before we're even talking about the winter initiation season. Are schools ready for what the weather could bring? And of course, most importantly, will these boys be safe?
No, thank you very much for having us, Michelle, and the viewers. Look, there has been a long process of preparing for this initiation season, and that is informed by previous experiences wherein we have endured some fatalities, particularly in certain hotspots in the Eastern Cape, which include the OR Tambo district, the far east of the OR Tambo district, as well as the Alfred Nzo district. But the Provincial House of Traditional Leaders, working closely with the Congress of Traditional Leaders, also with the intervention of the national structures, which include the National Executive Committee of Controlesa and the House at national level. We have been preparing for the last 3 to 4 months, and that preparation includes taking into account climatic conditions, because June period in any given case is a very vicious period because of the climatic changes, which include freezing winters. But also the recent floods, we are taking that into account because the location of the schools has to be in areas that are quite safer, that are uphill, instead of using close to the banks of the rivers, which are normally the most affected when there is flooding. So we have taken everything into account in that respect. But I must mention that part of what we have done and we have tried to do extensively this year is training. The training of the traditional surgeons, as well as the caregivers, as well as traditional leaders that monitor the entire initiation season. And this training is to capacitate and to make an all-rounder, practitioners who are capable and able to respond to any eventuality, but also to deal with the nitty-gritty that relates to the health-related matters. And we're working closely with the departments of police, COGTA, as well as health. And we're doing that so that all hands are on the deck, so that the work that we do is very much coordinated to ensure efficiency, to ensure that we're able to do troubleshooting, because preventative measures are much more better to deal with consequences that come. Yes.
Yeah, certainly. Zolani, this might sound like a really ill-informed question, but is there a particular reason why initiation season has to take place during winter?
Well, in the ancient tradition, winter has always been a more favorable period from a point of view of the weather. Remember that many of the initiates, they get affected in terms of dehydration. So if it were to happen during the summer period, the dehydration would double and triple. So there are a number of other factors that winter is better because in the mountain we have to use a heating system which is based on tradition, where we make fire out of wood and so on. But there are other reasons which we cannot communicate because of the sacredness of the ritual. But winter has always been the initiation season type of a climate, which is more favorable, and that is informed by the indigenous knowledge system as well as the African wisdoms. Unfortunately, I can't give you, so I give you things that are generic, but which would obviously make sense when I say it. So it's not only an issue of spirituality. There's also African cosmology, if you like, the scientific way of looking at things.
Right. I appreciate that. Thank you for giving us at least a picture of why the time of year is so important. You've spoken about the Eastern Cape and some of the challenges that we've seen in particular areas of that province. But Limpopo also says that it is gearing up for a safe and successful initiation season. In fact, they've got strict criteria for circumcision schools, and only boys that have a clean bill of health over the age of 12 will be accepted. These are all the kinds of oversight mechanisms that we need to be in place, right?
Certainly. Limpopo is going through, in fact, not only Limpopo, the Free State, the Northern Cape, the Western Cape, are amongst the provinces wherein a very big contingent of young men will be entering the season of the rites of passage from boyhood to manhood. The state of readiness is across all the provinces and all the regions. We have taken a resolve that we must lead from the front, and that the organs of the state must do everything that they can to support the institution of traditional leadership, but give the primary responsibility to the owners of the ritual so that they can do what is necessary. Because sometimes what creates confusion is when people are fighting turf wars on something that is clearly belonging to the institution of traditional leadership. So from that perspective, Limpopo is as prepared as other provinces are prepared. And the points which I have emphasized of training, capacity building, preparing monitors, not leaving things to chance, it cuts across the spectrum. So the state of readiness is there, and we will leave no stone unturned in ensuring that we take every necessary precaution. We're telling our forces on the ground to exercise extra care and ensure that they don't leave anything to chance, because you can't take chances with the lives of our children who are being prepared for future role of leadership, family heads, community heads, and leaders of this nation. Certainly.
I want to just perhaps ask this question for families who are still needing to apply, Zolani. So what are the steps that need to be taken, and what are perhaps the checklists that we need to have so that we ensure that everyone is being kept safe? One of those is a signed consent letter from parents, and they must also have medical papers that have been checked by the surgeon. And of course, we know they must be 12 years and older. What are some of the other pointers for families who still need to apply?
Yeah, like you say, we advise families, parents to remain very vigilant. It is important that even the surgeon which is being selected, that it is confirmed by the institution of traditional leadership. In other words, parents must actually sign that consent form. They must ensure that the child has gone through the medical checkup, and they must also ensure that they get the nod from the senior traditional leader of the area or a headman who is responsible for that. The initiation forums that are credible. Parents must get confirmation that the traditional surgeon and the traditional school that they are checking in or enrolling their child is actually certified and confirmed, and they get the nod from the institution of traditional leadership. Without that, then we will not take responsibility. We are calling on parents to be very responsible in this respect, because we know that there are people who are abusing this process because they want to make a quick buck, and therefore there are criminals out there that are acting like human traffickers, and they want to trap young children so that in the final analysis, they make money out of this process. Some of them, they even go to the extent of kidnapping and adopting children in order to demand ransom from the parents in the form of saying that, oh, your kid is in and yet that traditional school is a bogus initiation school. So stay vigilant.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as a final question, since you've brought up the issue of initiation schools trying to make a quick buck. There's also been reports of school owners charging sometimes double or triple what is the acceptable rate. What is the rate that should be charged, Zolani? And if schools are not adhering to that rate, what kind of sanction is there for parents, in terms of them facing the full might of the law?
Well, I must communicate to the nation and the families at large that this is not a commercial exercise. This is a ritual. This is a tradition. These are rites of passage. And therefore, people must not want to exploit our masses of the people by charging exorbitant prices. I think, again, people must report such surgeons to the traditional leaders and the traditional councils so that we can come very strong on those people who are doing that. I will not mention the issue of the pricing here on air because it differs from one region to the other. But I can tell you that we don't subscribe to the school of thought of price fixing. We don't fix prices, but pricing is informed by a number of commodities and a number of other expenses that are actually spent during the season, which include catering and other things that are related to that. So I'm saying that once people have a suspicion that they are being overcharged, they need to report that to the traditional authorities.